of them. And one is that Greg was born in New Hampshire. He's a graduate in college of a BA and a BS with a degree in business administration. For 20 years, he was a buyer and merchandiser for a large food chain on the East Coast. And then his next 20 years that he spent where he owned his own retail hobby business in St. Louis, specializing in miniature cars, trainers, and worldwide sales. He moved to Hammonton to be near their daughter 8 years ago. Became involved here in HSH, and where he served three years as vice president and 2 years as president. Currently, he serves as the HSH historian, where he spends an amazing amount of time in discovering and preserving Hammonton history and its timeline. So I have more, but I'm going to save it for the both, he and his wife. Debb was born in New Jersey and graduated from Syracuse University with a BS in zoology and with an AAS in health science. She worked as a respiratory specialist for 50 years and specifically as a pulmonary lab supervisor in St. Louis hospitals. She's been affiliated with HSH for the past 8 years as trustee, secretary, and curator. Her creativity shines in her displays, and we will see her creativity tonight. That's just to get off the script for a second, just to talk about Greg and Debb. I mean, they are amazing. Anybody that's in the workings of the Historical Society knows just the amazing amount of work that they put in. I would say that right now that Greg, he knows more about Hammonton than anybody in Hammonton, maybe anybody who was ever in Hammonton. And he works constantly, it's just amazing the amount of time that he puts in. And Debb as well, he is our historian, Debb is our curator, and she works again, night and day on her job. Her creativity is something that shines, shines as a light for all of us, plus all the work that she does in being responsible for all the artifacts, all the new artifacts, and those that are that we have on hand. So with that, I'll turn it over to you or to Greg.
Greg first. Okay.
My knees are shaking after that. Jeez. I see a lot of people here too that might have headaches. I'm going to put a plug in. Every other Thursday upstairs, senior chair volleyball is a riot. If you got nothing to do, come on out sometime. And so we had a lot of head bumps and stuff today. So at least everybody's conscious. That's good. All right, so we're going to go, we called it Names, Nonsense, and Misnomers. Unfortunately, we're going to be just doing the tip of the iceberg because we could probably do about 30 or 40 of these things and still not get through Hammonton completely. With that, we'll start right into it, and we're going to kind of give you a little bit of a walk around, if you will, but we've got to move along very quickly because I've been told in no uncertain terms we've got to finish up within an hour, so it's going to be rather quick. Okay. Oh, there's my other hand. We got it here. Good. Both hands. Okay, so first of all, we all know that Coffin's, or the William Coffin's mill was started in about 1812 at the foot of the lake, and after the dam was built, and at that time it was a very straight dam right across there. And as over time, of course, that curve has shortened the lake somewhat. You have that nice gentle curve instead of that turn to the left as you get down to the bottom of what we know now as White Horse Pike. We're going to be watching, just for the record, this is Weymouth Road, but that's only one of 3 or 4 names that it's had over time. This particular map, and unfortunately, the map we got to deal with, the oldest map we have, other than a map that you will see a little bit later on, is from 1872 when the whole county was done. And so you're going to see some buildings and spots and names that weren't there during the periods, some of the periods we're talking about. And when we go to Coffin, I mean, this is 60 years, the map is 60 years after Coffin's Mill was started. But we're gonna walk you down Pleasant Mills Road and a little bit around the settlement there. Now, Coffin himself lived, that house there is exactly under kind of the middle of Kessler Hospital. And unfortunately, it was torn down. And then the little company store, we didn't put the slide in, I almost did. The little company store is the oldest building in Hammonton as we know it, and exists today as part of another house. But in just for the privacy of the person involved, the family involved, we didn't include that. So we'll right to the next. I'll do them individually, I think. One that we don't have a slide for is the Weatherby. After Coffin's Mill closed, the Weatherby house, the Weatherby family came to town, and they built a house behind the two that we're going to show you, and that goes way back to the 1860s, I believe, at this point. And he made a mill also just below where Coffin had his mill. Okay. So here's the William Coffin house, and it was built in 1812, gorgeous place. Again, it's sad that it's gone. The mill was behind the dam, just below it, and it would have been one heck of a thing to still have in town if it was still there. Now, as you turn onto Pleasant Mills Road, the first home you're going to come to sits right up by the road, because back then when it was built, it was a dirt road about a quarter the size that we have right now. Just wide enough for a wagon, basically. That was built in 1818, so it's one of the oldest houses in town. I guess it's the second oldest, as I think about it, I think. It was first built by Jonathan Haynes, who was a partner with William Coffin, and later they broke up the relationship with some problems with the glass factory, and Andrew Hay came in to be a partner with the John Hammond Coffin. Today it's owned by Carol, help me out, Martinick. That's how I would say it, yeah, Martinick. Okay. Now, going up the road, first of all, Deb will show you up there. The house we just talked about is right there in that sketch, and we're going up the road to the next one up, which is 1825, and that was Charlotte Speakman's house. That's Pleasant Mills Road before there was any trees or anything. You'll see a lot of things before there were trees in the slides. And she was quite a pioneering individual. She came alone, started a country store, and it grew and grew, and it had a meeting hall in it. That is now in the lower right, that is the home of Daniel and Kristen Keating, one of our past presidents, Kristen was. As I said before, the location of the Coffin house was pretty much right behind that street light, underneath part of the hospital itself, probably just under that two-story section, or the entryway, and before you get to that raised part there. Yeah, right there. They started the glass mill in 1817, and the mill was located in the vacant lot, the overflow lot that we see over there by Kessler Hospital across the street. It would have been towards the front, the main structure. It was burned down in a worker dispute in 1838, but they rebuilt it immediately, and they kept the glass, the hollowware plant going there until 1857-58 before they closed it. Right across the street, Sophia's Drive-In, that's where the other glass plant was. And we believe that is the flattening plant, so they made cylinders of glass, and then to make window glass, you split a cylinder and it just lays out in the heat, and that's how you made the window glass in a very simplistic explanation. we believe that that is the exact location of the plant, of that other thing. And then in the woods, just behind Sophia's, that would have been the house of Matthew Seagrove. Now, he actually came in 1857. He was one of the first people to move to Hammonton after Burns and Landis started selling plots. But he bought a house that pre-existed from the Coffin era. So that house is gone. We have people we've talked to who remember the house sitting there before it kind of fell down, I think it was. Now, the oldest, the first house built under the Burns and Landis era is right across Seagrove Avenue, and that was built in 1857. Sits right on the corner. If you get stopped by the light there, you can see the stop line there. Look to your right, and that's John DeLuca's house right now. So that's very historic, actually. The stagecoach, of course, back in the day was the way most people traveled. U.S. mail, just people visiting, whatever. That was the means, and also people used to put some of their products and produce on the stage to take it to market if they didn't have their own wagon, or obviously if stuff wasn't too bulky, because you can only put so much on the stage. But anyways, that was the mode of transportation. Everything, of course, was dirt road at the time. And then along came the railroad. No, nothing by me would be complete without talking about the railroad, as people might know. The Camden and Atlantic Railroad planned to open up Atlantic City, and as most railroads did back in the day, they built big hotels at the destination to draw people, passengers along the line, and then of course they started hauling various freight things through the various stops along the way. So the Camden and Atlantic were the first to get to Atlantic City. And one map that surfaced just a couple of years ago from Bill Parkhurst is the Camden and Atlantic had the first plan to develop Hammonton. They actually there were like 3 different towns along the way that were targeted for development, and Hammonton was one of them. And one of the up to this point, all the settlers, most all the settlers were either at the head end of Central Avenue or above Main Road, across. Some of those roads never came to be. Don't let the names throw you. This was Camden and Atlantic's plan for Hammonton. I don't know if Hammonton Road ever existed, nor have I seen anything about Lake Road. But certainly Plymouth, Middle, Pine, and across Basin, and then Oak and whatever. There were farms developing there. The downtown area as we know it really did not exist. But one thing that's very interesting is the little dotted line that comes up follows basically the line that would ultimately become Grape Street. I measured it out from the intersections, and it pretty much would have come right through the Canal's liquor store, so you wouldn't have had that if there was a train track coming through. And then it was going to branch out in both directions so they could turn around if need be. And the depot was exactly where Arena Auto sits today. And if you look to the right a little further, there was a Grand Hotel was going in there at the head of the lake, and they had a very elaborate garden planned out there too. Now, they spent so much money getting to Atlantic City that they budgeted like about $700,000. They spent about $1.4 million. So they kind of scrapped a lot of their plans to develop some of these lands. And then there's Arena as we know it, and that alone has a neat little story. In 1920, that was Arena. That was a gas station. They built a gas station, and correct me if I'm wrong, but everything was spread out from that original building in both directions. Now, unfortunately, as the roads widened, a lot of the real estate to either side of the building was gobbled up. But it started off as a gas station. At that time, I can't figure out what gas it is without looking close, but that's really got a heck of a lot of history in itself. Now, we did a great big presentation here on the Canoe Club when the painting of Lillian on the Lake was dedicated a few months ago. This was Lillian on the Lake as it existed in 1920 when Lillian Jackson first took it over. She knew the White Horse Pike was going to be created out of a whole bunch of little pieces along the way. They were going to, unify it into a main thoroughfare. And so she moved over there. The road didn't quite go as close as it does today to the property. But she knew that it would be a plus, and she kind of transitioned her restaurant business from downtown, but the Jackson House previously. Then during the Depression was looming, she had a great start, but then kind of slowed down. So by 34, I think it was, she declared bankruptcy. And then in the 1940s, and actually up to 1961, the Petkevis family owned it, and that painting was painted by Mrs. Catherine Petkevis. Nowadays, of course, it's Sail Lake Commercial Center, and approximately where the picture was taken would have been across the part of the building and across the parking lot over to White Horse Pike. Now, I talked about people settling in above, and I debated whether to put this map in. But even in 1872, look at the number of people up north of Main Road. It was already starting to develop downtown. You'll see these roads weren't even open then, okay? They were not surveyed and open for settlement. But the town, the concentration was certainly above Main Road. Now, 5 years or 4 years, depending on which date you believe. This is the Burns and Landis advertisement. This was the Florida Swampland poster, if you will, to tell the world how great Hammonton was for breathing and sleeping and drinking and everything else. Water, by the way. And so this was circulated in about 1857, mainly through New England and New York State. That's where all the vast majority of early settlers came from. Some came as far as, well, Pennsylvania's right across the river, but Ohio and points westward and northward too, as the word got out. This is an artist's conception, but they, Burns and Landis, knew that this was the established area. This has buildings that never existed again. It's an artist's conception. You will see where the glass factory was, though. No. So this actually is coming back from a full restoration in Philadelphia that's going to hang in Town Hall. This is the cracked up version. It's going to be it's almost all ready to go and put in a glass sealed case to go in Town Hall when we get it back, probably within a month or so. Those who donated for the process, we thank you very much. This is Middle Road. Now, Middle Road was not opened up, believe it or not, until 1857, one of the first roads that Burns and Landis opened up. They themselves were going in that direction at first in terms of settling. Now, this is the key. This is the key to downtown. 1858, Central Ave, Valley Ave, Bellevue Ave, Egg Harbor Road, 3rd Street, and Fairview Ave were opened up for settlement. Those were the initial streets that led to so many more over the course of time.
Go back one time, just
Yep.
if you can reverse, just so everyone knows.
Yes.
We have seen references to Bellevue spelled this way,
Yep.
and of course, Bellevue is no longer spelled
Right.
that way. We don't know when that switch over, or if it was just
It-
a mistake,
yeah.
or.
It appears it may have started as this spelling. That's why I put it in there. And then it morphed into the other. Fairview was, spelt the traditional way too, of course. All right, because everything was kind of north of Main Street, now Main Road at that time went from Pleasant Mills Road all the way down to Elm. Okay, just so you know, that's Main Road back then. That the road just continued. That's why it's straight as you look down there right now.
Are you saying that's the White Horse Pike now?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it is the White Horse Pike now. So knowing.
Part of it. Main Road at Arena.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Main Road branches off to the left, and the White Horse Pike continues to the right.
Yeah.
That used to be known as Hammonton Avenue.
And Weymouth Ave and Waterford Pike.
Yeah, Waterford Pike too. So they
The
went
Waterford
through a
Road.
transition. There's several different names. It can get real confusing when you're trying to
Yeah,
read about them.
names changed as things developed. Yeah. So, anyways, as the population had already started to shift away from the lake, when Bellevue Avenue was opened up, the Elvins family came to town from Maine, and they decided to build a great big general store, horse livery, stables, blacksmith shop, you name it, it was all there.
Post office.
Post office came to it. It used to be at the lake where that little building at the lake, the company store, was the first post office. This one became the second one. So he knew what was going to go on. He figured that, okay, this is the place to be. So this became the primary stage stop for people coming into town. And many of the beginnings of Hammonton, a lot of the organizational meetings that would come a few years later were upstairs in Elvin's Hall. Okay, so that we think he's kind of the center of what we call Hammonton 2.0. Now, guess what's there now? In the exact same spot, you come in, you water your steed, you get something to drink, you catch up on the gossip, you grab something to eat, and you bring something to take along for the day. That's exactly where Elvin's store was. Because Bellevue, of course, just came straight up. You didn't have the little jog that it has now to the traffic light. So good old Wawa is now could be Hammonton 4.0 if you want to, if you think rather sadistically about it. It's taken over. Independent Fire Company number 2 up on the Pike. This was George Elvins and his father were there were 4 generations of Elvins that became chief at Fire Company number 2. And they donated the land, Elvins did, and that's why today you see the current firehouse, of course, it has Elvins Hall on it right now. And that's really dedicated to the Elvins family, who was very significant in the formation of it. Now, going down Main Road, going northwest as the roads go there. This is two of the early homes, the Parkhurst home. This was one of the Parkhurst homes. They came in 1858, I think it was, if my memory is okay from not being bounced around with volleyball in the head today. And Pine Road, the Longo home, that's more like your typical place way back then. Some things were very simple. This is another Parkhurst homestead. As you're going down by the antique place, just before you get to it, the big place that sits off to the right, and the right-hand picture is the perspective that you get driving by. That is the original Parkhurst. Bill, wherever you are. Yeah. Now, it is turned a bit in that photograph, but that is the same place that was built in the 1850s. It's still owned by the Parkhurst family, by the way. They rent it out, but the property is still in the name of Bill and his family. Now, across, or coming back a little bit, we get to Fairview Ave, and that is the Fairview Hotel or the Fairview Inn that was built in the early 1900s. When I say that, it's 1800 to 1910. I have not nailed down a exact date on it yet. And over time, it morphed later on in time, probably in its best days as the Chateau Bilaz. Angela Donio's parents ran that. And this, I assume, would be after it maybe was no longer the Chateau. It's the hotel there, some sort of hotel. I couldn't see it, Fairview Hotel again, so maybe it came in between. I kind of thought it was the other way. And of course now, Wawa took that spot first. Now it's the Pantry One Food Mart that sits on that property. Now here is sometimes we look at stuff and we kind of say, wait a minute, that's not the right place. This was from a postcard. It says Main Street. I think, they were talking about Main Street maybe generically, if you will, for the town of Hammonton. And again, in the earliest time, it was probably Bellevue Ave, spelled the other way. And what we're going to do is kind of stroll you down Bellevue Ave. We then took just kind of the same view, but you notice all the trees were already there, and even had sidewalks because the wagons and the horses, it was a dirty place to walk, so they even put walkways behind. So I'm going to turn it over to Deb, and I'll play Vanna over there. Everybody here okay? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so the Main and Bellevue, that's kind of the nonsense part of the lecture here, that if you look at old postcards, they very often are really not necessarily named properly, so you just have to be a little cautious. There's several of them out there that also are called Main Street, and it's a picture of the dam, and that's not right either. Okay. I'd like to say we're going to take a nice slow stroll down Bellevue, but the truth is we're going to walk real fast, okay? I apologize if your home is on Bellevue and it's not on here. We really tried to limit things as best we could. We tried to stick to homes that were built anywhere from maybe 1858 up to the 1900s. There's one or two exceptions to that, but the ones that are most noticeable for people going down the road, okay? And I do want to make a comment that not only Bellevue, we have a lot of information about the homes on Bellevue because of surveys, historic surveys that were done, pictures that were taken. We have one from 2008, and I think there's one from before that too, where we have gleaned just wonderful information about the people who own the homes and the history behind it. Unfortunately, we don't have that for the rest of Hammonton. We have a little bit of Central, we have some of White Horse Pike. We really are very much in need of anybody's photos from their homes. If you have old photos or history of your home, please get them to us. Homes now that many of you probably live in that were built in the 1920s, 1930s, they're almost 100 years old. And guess what? They are now historic homes. So please, if you have pictures of your home, stop by and let us get some copies of them and some information about them. Okie doke. So the first home I want to talk about is 733 Bellevue Avenue. This one is probably recognizable to many of you. The house was actually built in 1893 as the Lyman House. However, Mr. Evans and his family moved in 1896, and Joseph Evans was a more notable figure in Hammonton, so it's really known as the Evans House. You can see in 2008 what the home looked like. This home has had many, many owners, I believe. And I think that they have all tried to renovate the home as best they can, but there are some of you in this room right now that know how much it costs to renovate something like that. It just is tons and tons of money. So it finally is looking pretty good. I don't know these folks, but Robert and Jessica Martin apparently own the home now. and they're improving the landscape around it shortly, I believe, and I can't wait sometime to get this on a house tour. Next home is 646 Bellevue Avenue. It is the Liberto house, Dave Liberto. And you may look at this and say, why is this in my slide? This house was actually built somewhere between 1862 and 1870. It's kind of amazing, isn't it? It doesn't look like it's that old, but it is. Not a whole lot of renovation to the place. Certainly the porch has been changed a little bit, but the basic outline of the house is very similar. At the time, the Charles Roberts family lived in the home when it was first built. Next is 614 Bellevue Avenue. We're getting close to the corner of Bellevue and Valley Ave. This is a wonderful old home. The picture that you see is from 2008. It was built in somewhere between 1860 and 70. It was known at the time that it was built as the Woolton home. And again, probably several owners. Those of you who have lived in town probably know it as one of the Ordilly homes. Mary and Charlie Ordilly lived in it a while back. And right now the owners are Eric and Amy Whiteluke. And hopefully we'll see some improvement on that home over time. Again, I've been inside of that place. It's magnificent, but requires work. Okay, 611 Bellevue. This one is a bit of a question mark. And when you drive past it, it doesn't look particularly like one that would jump out at you. However, this home again was built somewhere between 1860 and 1870, and it was built by J.K. Landis. Here's where the question comes in. Was it really J.K. Landis, or was it Charles Landis from Burns and Landis? I'm not the one that brought up the question. It was actually brought up in the historic review that we were looking at. It could have just been a relative of Landis. We really don't know. Charles Landis broke with Judge Burns a couple of years after they got together, and he headed off to found Landisville, and then eventually Vineland, and then I think he ended up shooting somebody, didn't he? He had quite a history.
Yeah, he did.
He had quite a history.
One thing to remember, a lot of these houses where we only have 2008 pictures, a lot of them probably started as boxes, and then they get added on to. Yes?
I'm sorry, is there any way that you could stand by the podium like your husband
Okay.
did?
Yeah.
Because we can't see
Sorry.
the.
Sure, can't see, sorry. Okay, sure. Okay, 542 Bellevue Avenue. This home was built somewhere between 1858 and 1863. And I think most of you might know it as the old Collins Dairy. There was a big barn behind it. The barn has been taken down. Initially, when it was built, the physician lived there, Dr. S.F. Nichols, in 1872. And then it became Collins Dairy in the 1930s. It's now owned by Nicole Umasella.
They replaced the barn with a nice structure. The other barn was falling down, unfortunately.
516 Bellevue Avenue. This is another one that you drive by and it just doesn't probably, you don't think of it as the nicest home on, I shouldn't probably say that, I'm sorry. In any case, it's not super memorable. It was known as the Asher Moore House, built 1860. It really hasn't changed much at all. It still needs some work.
Probably started off in that box towards the rear and then extended out.
And I apologize if Bill and Karen are in our audience. 450 Bellevue Avenue. Here's a famous one that on the upper left-hand corner in the snow. This is the William Black Cottage. This is one of the oldest homes in town. It was built in 1858. The interesting thing about the Black Cottage is that it was built right on the corner of Packard and Bellevue. Mr. Black lived in another home at the time. Mr. William Black owned Black's Grocery downtown, and he decided that that cute little cottage wasn't quite enough for him, so he was going to build a larger home. So he took the cottage and moved it down one lot. So we will see what appeared in the lot that was left, and kind of if you could
It's
maybe,
huge too, I mean, it's to move it.
if you could just show them the lot next to the upper
Yeah.
left-hand picture that it's vacant, up
Well, it's up
there.
here too.
Yeah, okay.
Here's the Black Mansion after it was built, and, I mean, they moved stuff around like it was nothing back then.
Yeah. The Crescentos own this home now, and unfortunately, they've made a lot of renovations to the home. So much so that unfortunately, it can no longer really be even classified as a historic home. We do, however, have a rendering or a model of this home in the museum, stored away at the moment. But it's a wonderful, wonderful, looks like a dollhouse, but you can take it all apart, and it shows the inside structure of the home, and the staircases, the doors. It was done by an architect, and it's absolutely priceless. So I think most of you recognize what is now 450 Bellevue Avenue. Okay, so if that one was moved, then the one that was built in its place is the Black Mansion, 458. Again, upper left-hand corner, it was built approximately 1888. And the middle picture down here is sort of a side view of it. Also a photo of Mr. Black, and on the right-hand side, what the Black Mansion looks like now. Probably the most notable figure that lived in the Black Mansion was Garfield DeMarco. And he's worth an entire lecture or presentation unto himself. Talk about a man from rags to riches to rags. That's Garfield DeMarco. Okay, we'll move on to 517. You'll notice we're bouncing back and forth, and that's just so that we can come down number-wise down the whole street. 517 Bellevue Avenue is known as the Conkey House. It was built in 1859 to 1864 on the left-hand side. 2008 picture looks kind of basically the same, but with improvement. And of course now Mr. Forte has turned it into a magnificent looking home.
Even in 2008, they were holding up the porch with
Yeah.
2x4s while they were starting to fix it up.
Great house. 509 Bellevue Avenue. This sits next to the house we just looked at. And here's another very famous gentleman in town. Jacob Wass was a dentist. This home was built in 1908, and the reason that I included it wasn't one of the earliest, but this gentleman had a tremendous impact on the town, and he deserves, and his home deserves a spot in this presentation. The home is now owned by the Donios, and it's a beautiful little cottage type of house with yellow siding on it. By the way, I'm not an architect. I need Angela Donio up here to tell us actually what the architecture of each of these places are. So we'll see if we can get her to do that one for us. All right, here's one of my favorite slides. This is an old picture, and we're looking at 442 Bellevue Avenue on the left. It is the Montfort home, and on the right, 430 Bellevue Ave is the Smith home. Both built 1880 to 1890, and you'll see in just a moment who owns these homes. By the way, Laomi Montfort at one point when he first came to town rented land from the Parkhursts, and he was one of the first gentlemen who got the pear orchards going here in town. Okay, concentrate on the house on the left for the moment. And now you'll recognize it. Okay, this belongs to Frank and Laura Chapin, of course, in our audience here. Yay! Look at the photo on the left, 2008. My goodness, it was that is such an amazing transformation. It's almost hard to believe.
I think I saw the hole in the roof at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
Just one?
They bought this home when it was absolutely in shambles, and they've turned it into this masterpiece. The home on the right, here's a picture of it by itself, 1890, was owned by William Smith. The Smith family also, William Smith, very important people in town. At one point, Mr. Smith owned part of or was in goods with the shoe factory. And then he became president of the People's Bank downtown. And his story and his family's story continues, but again, for another time. Mr. Chapin also had something to do with what the house now looks like on the right. Frank put a lot of hard labor into this one, so now he's got two on his belt.
If you need any high wire act stuff, call Frank. Yeah, look at the driveway. The driveway was cool back then. Yeah.
That picture we never saw till after we were done with that house too. That was amazing.
Yeah. Great postcard. Okay, 429 Bellevue Avenue. This is another interesting story. You may think I wasn't a very good photographer here and didn't center my picture very well, but I did this on purpose. The house on the left is there right now, and you'll see a blank spot on the right-hand side. However, there used to be a house there, and the two homes together were the Bellevue boarding house. The house on the left was mostly where people slept, and on the right-hand side was more for eating. We have a postcard that we unfortunately have temporarily misplaced, but we will find it, that shows the two homes together. If we back up for just a second, because it's kind of important. So if you walked through that empty lot and headed down Packard, there's another empty lot on the left-hand side. It's not totally empty. It's got a swimming pool sitting in the middle of it right now, but it used to be the Ryder home, the Andrew Ryder home on the northwest corner of Bellevue Ave. Unfortunately, this home is no longer with us, and man, what a tragedy. Andrew Ryder was the cranberry king here in town, very wealthy man. Ryder University in New Jersey here was named after him, and now you can see that it is a vacant lot. So that's a shame on us for letting that one go. 404 Bellevue Avenue, the Coggy House. Mr. Coggy came to town and built this home somewhere around 1885 to 1895. He was a realtor. The home after renovation is on the right-hand side. And this is one of the homes that was known as a showcase home here. Greg and I did not live here at the time, but this home was chosen in different decorating companies from Philadelphia. Some pretty high-name companies came in, and I think each room was decorated by a different couple or company, whatever. So interesting. I've not been in the inside of this home, so. Okay, 408 Bellevue. Aha, this is one of my
You
favorite.
can skip it. Ron said skip it.
Ron said skip it. Upper left-hand corner. Anybody know? Recognize that, anybody? I hope not, because what's to the right of it that says Veterans Memorial Park is what used to sit right by that sign. That house on the left was in Veterans Memorial Park, right on the corner. And where's the house now? It's to the right, and it belongs to Ron and Beth Babinski. It used to be called the Turner House back in the, when Mrs. Turner owned it, about 1930. That's when it was moved from Veterans Park to Bellevue Avenue, to 408 Bellevue. So this home, and it was apparently moved before that also. It's just amazing how homes and churches in this town have been moved from one location to another I've never heard of this before, but it's been done. Yep. Great home, great home. Okay. And I'm gonna turn it back over and we're gonna continue down and look at some businesses. Everybody with us?
So the building on the left was the original People's Bank. And two different shots of that in the early days. Here was Central Avenue right there. See the curb? So it sat right out where the Reagan Rock is and where the Christmas tree is, and right out close to the intersection actually. And the building that was built in 1898. It was moved up to become Town Hall to replace the Historical Society building that we live in 1925. And while it sat there, the building on the right was constructed right next to it. So that then gives you the space that you have between the bank and the Central Ave now. Of course, Central's been widened, of course, so that's infringed on it somewhat. But again, that had a lot of stone in it. The left-hand building, that was no easy chore to move up to where Town Hall sits. Actually, right in front of the present Town Hall is where it's at, once it got moved. And of course, now it's the new Imaginarium that is shaping up in town. And if anybody has not seen it, it's really magnificent what they're doing there. A couple other just views down Central in the top view, and the bottom view is the Turner building, which forced Ron's house to move the first time. Parts of it, not all of it did, and he wanted to build a business for his son and to have other retail space, so that's why it moved to Veterans Park in the first place.
You said that building was moved? That,
Yeah, it's a huge building.
yeah, I know, but that's massive.
Yeah.
Sonic Hall came.
Oh, wait, you're talking about, this building was, the old People's Bank was moved, yes.
Oh, but not.
No, this one's still sitting there. Yeah, that one's still sitting there, yeah, sorry.
Back up maybe and.
Yeah, whoops, oh geez, I went.
Yeah,
It
this is
was
what
the
moved.
slightly smaller one,
Okay.
but that got moved up Central
That got moved up
to the Town Hall.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow. That's amazing.
okay. This is the original firehouse for Fire Company number 1. Of course, it didn't have a number when it started because it was only one. But it was built in 1886, and if you notice the slope in the road, that sits where that bank ended up a little bit later. That's on coming down 3rd Street, 3rd and Vine. That's basically the same intersection. But because there was too far away from the town, I mean, this was all horses or people-drawn apparatus. Horses here, but they wanted to be closer to the fire, so they moved this firehouse down to Bellevue, and I believe it was to the right of the brick structure that replaced it in 1928, the middle picture. And of course, and then they tore it down after they built the other one. And then of course now it's the, I can't even pronounce it, Lulio, what was it? Yeah, Lolio, Architects building. It would have been a tight squeeze. It was tight squeeze for 3 vehicles back then. It would be get about 1.5 in there now probably. This is the 200 block of Bellevue Avenue. We're going to skip over a lot of this because you could spend a whole thing just on one block, really. But these are 2 very, or 3 locations that have changed so much over time. The 200 block here, of course, is the toy market. Please. It has been about 15 different things over time. Anything from full department stores to divided up and back to a full thing again. The addresses vary anywhere from 200 to 206, and sometimes I suspect even 208 one time that I found. The opposite side of the street was just to give you kind of a panoramic view, but there's the Viagra drugstore there on the corner. Yeah. And that was Kelly's Drugs at one point, as was this, by the way, at one time. And then the lower right is the new health center that's there. But that was the site of the original Bowles and Jackson Meat Market, which was one of the very first businesses on Lower Bellevue. And they bounced around between some of these buildings too over time. And then it became the Sears Catalog Center, a whole new building. And then they did a magnificent job updating it here to the health center. I was gonna say, I guess go ahead to the next one, yeah. That's me. But I wanted to say, this is the 100 block of Bellevue. This is the next block down. It needs to be said that prior to about 1870-ish, a little bit later, there was no businesses. There were no businesses really beyond Fay Street. How's that one for you? Fay Street is 2nd Street today. Everything was on this first block. So it was very concentrated, and then it started going second to third as time went on. Just 2 pictures, then and now. The building across the street there, that used to be a huge department store, and then it was divided into other things. I think that's where Newberry ended up too. It was right in there. And with fires and everything else, now it's all subdivided, of course. Now, if you went down to by the way, yeah, here's Bellevue Ave, just for the record. That little, those boards coming across the tracks right there. Yeah, that's Bellevue Avenue. Tilton's General Store basically sat in the right turn lane if you were coming from 12th Street and wanting to go down Egg Harbor Lane. You probably would crash right into the building. It was right up against the road. And it was built in 1864, actually completed in 1864. Someone else started it just before, but didn't finish. And Tilton store in this particular later time period, it was Johnson and Tilton. But it was destroyed by fire in 1904, and you may have heard me say one other time when we were doing fires or something, that the water pressure was so low that day that the hoses could only reach the first floor. So cinder started the roof on fire in 2 spots, and they just had to watch it pancake down until all that was left was the first floor, and they squirt water on it for no good whatsoever then. But Mr. Black had his original stores. Remember that last slide that I showed you on the right-hand side with all those buildings that had been subdivided from that big place? That was his original store on the same exact spot. And so that would be again on the south side as you near the intersection of Egg Harbor Road. Also, that Halfway Cafe is believed to be right in that spot too. Maybe perhaps where the blank parking lot was long before the building that is no longer there was built. But that's in the 1800s there.
Was that a department store?
Which?
Mr. Black's.
Black started off a lot with implements, farm implements, and also just dry goods primarily, yeah. So yes, but he got into some heavy duty stuff too. In fact, there's some of the things out front actually, some of the things he sold.
So owner of the Black Mansion on the corner of Packard and Bellevue.
Yeah, one and the same. This is a colorized postcard, but this is probably early 1900s art here. And this other, across the way, that's Black's department store that replaced those two little peaked roof places, okay? But in the meantime, he moved to the other block and then came back when this one was done. The bottom picture was actually, if the truth be known, between 1914 and 1921. How did I figure that? Because there's a little sign that says Hotel Royale to the right, and down Egg Harbor Road. So that you can pretty much nail that one right down, probably around 1920 based on the cars. They look like they've advanced a little bit there. And now, of course, the intersection, we all know El Mariachi on the left went through that refresh there a couple of years ago. It's a beautiful building. And unfortunately, the blank parking lot on the right where Ritchie's Army Navy was. And crossing over the Egg Harbor Road, of course, we only took this to show this is where Tilton Store sat. It was where this park, if you will, the train station park sits right out to the sidewalk at the crossover there.
So Egg Harbor, Elma,
Mariachi there.
Loco, railroad tracks, right here.
Yep. Now, we don't have a picture of the original station. The original station for Hammonton, by the way, was in DaCosta. In 1854, when everybody was centered around the lake, that was the closest place. So the first station was in DaCosta. We did not get a station until 1858, when Bellevue Avenue again was opened up. All of a sudden, hey, why not? Maybe we got to go here instead. We don't have a picture of it. William Burns' house, who lived in Hammonton, had a huge lumber mill downtown. He built all of the stations along the original Camden and Atlantic Railroad. And it just so happens the oldest station in New Jersey right now was West Berlin. And that's one of his stations. So it might have looked very similar to that. Okay. And the lean-to on the other side, or the shelter, that was where this state, or a station like this, that's where it sat. It was on the opposite side of the tracks versus what you see in the old 1900 station on the other side. Okay, crossing over the tracks. This is a great one. This was Richard Burns, one of the founders, Judge Richard Burns. He stayed with the town forever in many influential positions. That was his mansion right across from Bellevue to 12th Street. He sat right on that right-hand block when you get across Railroad Ave, I guess you'd say. And one of the things that he owned the property, and if you look at this picture on the lower, or the lower side, the bottom picture, he built a hotel called the Hammonton House. He built it in 1866. It was a very popular place, perhaps too popular, because in 1882, 83, the winter of that, it's very firmly believed that the Philadelphia Temperance Society burned it down. They're having too much fun there. Now, if you look at that picture there, though, that's actually from a tin plate negative that we have, and through the magic of computer work, for the first time ever, you can read Hammonton House the right way instead of backwards. So I flipped it around. That's how it would have sat, right along Railroad Avenue, right where the little cafe, Marquez, is it still Marquez? Though, right? Yeah. That's where it sat. And a little artwork up, they got them kind of close together again there, or in that upper right, but that's the Burns Mansion and the Hammonton House.
Railroad tracks here, 12th Street.
Yeah,
up
12th
the
Street.
tracks, and
Come on.
Bellevue. Railroad.
Okay, it was so good looking in its position there. It became the Esposito birthing hospital and birthing home, Hammonton's original hospital, and later focusing more on birthing. But it was such a great looking building that they decided to put, you'll notice a bulldozer in front of it here. That's where they're putting up the old Firestone store, the place right directly in front of it. And so that was the end of that building, unfortunately. Yeah, it would have been right behind there. I mean, right exactly behind it. Now today, the only thing that exists is I believe it was a 1950s wing for the birthing home that still comes out into Washington, right up towards Washington Street. And that's still there today as a nursing home, basically, I guess. We're all familiar with the Hotel Columbia, or as we know it today, the West End Inn or West End Grill. That is 1904, and that's it has changed a few things. It was the Orange Blossom Inn for a while, but it has quite a history and certainly very historic. Then the water pipe, the original standpipe for the water department was built in 1903. Haven't quite nailed down the date on it. It should be easy, but nobody put a date on the newspaper article in the middle. So when they went to take it down, they cut all the metal skeleton on the outside with an acetylene torch, but they didn't realize the inside was lined with tar and asphalt. So it was a smoking, burning hulk when it came down. That's what you see. It caught on fire on the inside. Oh, and the picture there, you don't show it, but they tied a chain around a tree and then around the bottom of the tower, and then the guy had the pickup truck or his truck on the other side, and so he's just kind of pulling it along so it would fall that way. Real, high-tech stuff here. This is the Osgood Shoe Factory. Of course, we all know that is Kramer Stockton. That building itself could be a whole session. I'm going to turn you back over to Deb here for this one about William Passmore, Reverend Passmore.
Just a real quickie, and I'll just stay right here. Mr. Passmore, Reverend Passmore came to town about 1860. He came from Texas, and he just wanted to be a hermit. He didn't want to be involved with people, so he bought a big block of land. And what you're looking at, what Greg is pointing to, is over the railroad tracks. So point to the railroad tracks. Yep. Okay. Down 12th Street, over to First. That whole block of land. He took all of that land, and he see how it's all blocked off in little squares and whatnot. He actually put roads. But they were just dirt roads, pretty wide dirt roads all through that area. The reason that Reverend Passmore is on the slides here is because I think he had hoped in his that at some time the roads that he built were so wide that Hammonton would expand out onto Passmore Avenue, and you don't even see Passmore Avenue on here. Lane Street there. Is that Passmore now? Yep. That's Passmore now.
So, yeah.
And Union Avenue is lined. No, it's reversed. Union Avenue is Passmore, and Lane is Lime Street. Right. Yep. So the town. He got into real struggles and lawsuits right from the get-go, from 1860s through the 1890s. The town did not do him right. He offered to let his land, these streets be used so people could travel on them if they needed to. And somehow the officials in the town decided that he was actually giving these streets and this land to the town, which was not the case. And so he had to fight very hard to even maintain his deeds on this land. And so the town, in an effort to, I guess, get back at him, decided, okay, we're going to tax you for each one of those little blocks instead of taxing you for the entire expanse of land that he had there. As I said, he remained in court for many years. He was an old man. He was partially paralyzed. He was completely deaf by the 1890s, and he was still fighting the town. He wrote 2 books, one of them, The Hammonton Ring, and the other one about the railroad, the Camden Railroad also, because his land bordered the railroad, and the railroad tried to gyp him out of his land also. So there's another book about the rascalities of the railroad. So just an interesting part of town.
By the way, he lived on Central Ave. The end of Central Ave. Here's your thing.
Yeah, he lived right at the very end of Central Ave, actually right about that parking lot across from Kessler. The part further in, that's about where his house was. Okay, now we're getting near the end here, so keep the no-dos packed away here for a bit. As we head down Egg Harbor Road, of course, we have the Hotel Royale, which was built. Lots of controversy behind that involving liquor, of course, later on, actually, in the next part of it. But very famous place. A lot of people would bicycle down on the big high wheelers. They'd bicycle down from Camden to go to the coast and back again. And it was the perfect watering hole halfway along. So he had a lot of business off of the bicyclists at that point. There we are, Raleigh and the Pines. Actually, maybe that was the sign was like that, I guess, at the time that I pointed out before. But it changed its name. The owners bounced around a little bit, but it really flourished in both times. But they were constantly fighting with city government and the temperance people along the way. That served liquor on Sundays, for the bicyclists, of course. Today, with 2.5 stories gone, it's the VFW house. It's one and the same. It's the same building. Oh, that's it.